What's up, Booba Tubers? Sniffty Dugan here. I wanted to follow up with why join a HOG Chapter video with information about officers and how the chapter functions behind the scenes. So this way you have a little bit more information before you make a decision on whether you want to join or not. So we're going to go through a lot of information, all the different officer positions. We'll call it the HOG Chapter series. I'm going to make a playlist for that. So hopefully, again, you find this information useful. And if you do, hit the subscribe button, help the sucker out, hit the bell notification icon so you know when I release the next video, and let's get to it. The first position we're going to talk about is the HOG Manager. No, it's not a pig farmer. It's not. All right? Seriously. It's usually an employee of the dealership. Tends to be the general manager of the store or the actual owner of the dealership themselves. These guys really rule the roost. They're in charge. Whatever they say goes. Really, it's pretty simple. They're the big swine. The whole hog. They oversee all of the chapter's activities and really to make sure that it's being managed properly. This is a not-for-profit in most cases, and the HOG Manager is responsible for making sure that this chapter meets Harley-Davidson's guidelines, as well as your state's regulations and the federal government's regulations on how 501Cs, I believe, are operated. So they have a lot of say of what's happening in your chapter. They approve and disapprove basically anything. They can override any decisions by the board, by the director. It doesn't matter. What they say goes. They're in charge of the chapter. It's not the director. It is the HOG Manager. The HOG Manager determines what officers are picked, and they can even pick the officers, right? They can pick whoever they want. As far as the director is concerned, assistant director, the secretary and the treasurer, those are the primary officer positions in the chapter. They're picked by the HOG Manager and the dealer. All of them. Now, the director can have and set up a board, which is highly recommended, and have discretionary officers with them as well. Head road captain, safety officer, events coordinator, historian, webmaster, to name a couple. They're all picked by the director, right? The first four are picked by the HOG Manager themselves and the dealer. I personally believe that the HOG Manager should let the director pick the officers. It's really important for the director to have people that want to work with them. I've been involved in chapters where the dealer makes too many decisions and they put people in officer positions that don't get along. And when you're involved in a chapter like that, it's drama. Right? We don't want any drama. So, if a HOG Manager is watching this, let your director and the primary four officers pick the people that they want to work with, because the chapter runs a lot smoother that way. Obviously, you get final say. Maybe they give you a choice, but I believe personally that the officers of the club should be able to pick the discretionary officers and who they're willing to work with, because it always turns out bad if there's people that don't get along. And let's face it, when you get a bunch of people in a room, there's always going to be a couple of people that maybe rub you the wrong way, or you just don't get along, you don't like their personality, whatever it is. When you're dealing with a bunch of people in a room, it's inevitable that some of that stuff's going to happen. So to try and limit that, it's good that the HOG Manager let people, the directors and the other officers pick. The swine in chief is responsible for making sure that the HOG Chapter is operated according to Harley-Davidson specifications. Harley-Davidson has very strict guidelines on, they even go down to how many events you have to have every year. I believe it's minimum, mandatory, you must have 4 events, events or rides. The HOG Manager can even determine how long the tenure of each officer is. So, for instance, if they say to the director, we want you to manage the club for us for 2 years, they can really make that decision. They can remove anybody at any time for any reason. They're in charge. Some people don't like that, but it's their store, right? It's the owner's store. He gets to do what he wants. It's his money. It's his reputation on the line, and it must be managed accordingly. Now, Harley has they do have strict guidelines that the owners must meet as far as how the club is operated, the insurance that's required, the taxes being filed, et cetera, et cetera. It is a business, right? Most clubs are managed as a separate business, again, a nonprofit, but it is set up as a business nonetheless. And of course, you must meet federal and state guidelines as well as Harley's guidelines. So it's not just a bunch of guys riding together. There's a lot of things going on in the background. The HOG Manager and Harley Davidson's regional HOG Manager, right? The HOG Manager is the store employee, and the regional is the person in charge of the HOG chapters for a bunch of dealers, say in the Northeast. There's a regional director that works for Harley Davidson. Between those two positions, the manager and the regional director, the guidelines are set, and they must be handed over to Harley Davidson in writing, that this is how we intend to operate the chapter. These are the things that we're going to do. This is how we're going to do it. And it needs to be approved by the regional director. So you just can't make up your own rules, right? Harley has pretty strict guidelines. The HOG Manager is also has final say for any fundraisers that you do as a chapter, the events, any activities that are set up. They have final say. Now, look, the HOG Managers that I've known really do not take an active role. Not that active of a role. They'll let the director in the chapter kind of run itself as long as you're meeting the guidelines, right? They're mainly concerned about liability and finances, right? Again, this is just, a non-for-profit, and you must pay taxes. Well, at least file tax returns, right? So that's their primary concern, is that the treasurer does a straight-up job, right? I've heard incidents where the treasurer was stealing money from the chapter. Most of the chapters and HOG managers understand that that's a possibility, and those guys who are on top of the game are extremely strict on how the finances are managed for the club. If you're going to order chapter merch, where you order hats, shirts, patches, etc., all of that stuff is usually ordered through the HOG Manager, right? The director or whoever the chapter puts in charge of ordering all that stuff works with the HOG Manager to get that merchandise ordered for the chapter. Some chapters, they don't want money up front from members, but there are some chapters, some owners that want the money up front. So again, you're ordering this merchandise. It's usually ordered through the HOG Manager. At least you get their approval. Right? You're not going to be able to just order this stuff without their approval. They put the order in. All chapter publications are managed through the HOG Manager. Facebook posts, if you have a Facebook page for the chapter, a website, all that gets approved by the HOG Manager. Again, some guys are paying more attention than others, but you have the dealer's reputation in your hand, which is why the HOG Manager role exists, to protect the sanctity of the dealer themselves, that the chapter doesn't screw up their reputation. So they want final say over everything, and you can't blame the guys. Each HOG chapter must be sponsored by a dealer. You cannot have a HOG chapter without a Harley Davidson dealership. So as an example, Tremonton Harley Davidson, I think they shut the doors after 105 years in New Jersey. That chapter went out. It's now defunct. The same thing with Ocean County Harley-Davidson in New Jersey. That dealership was merged with Shoreline Harley-Davidson, and that chapter was merged in. And the guys that live too far away, unfortunately, they no longer have a chapter. And there's some dealers that don't want a chapter. It's up to their discretion. Maybe it's just not worth it for them. So it is a job. It's just another moving part that the dealer has to worry about. If it's managed correctly, it is a benefit to the dealership. If it's managed poorly, it's probably, I'll say, drama-filled and really not all that worth it. So be on your best behavior, guys. So talking about dealers and needing a chapter, the dealer themselves, the HOG manager, can make the determination that they want to disband their club. They don't want it anymore. It's too much of a hassle. It's not working. Maybe they just want to give it a break for a year or two, and maybe there's trouble with the membership, and the dealership just doesn't want to deal with it. They can terminate the charter for the chapter, and you're done. Again, they have final say. So be good to your HOG manager, because they really have final say, and they have final say over everything, even membership. So if there's a member that is starting trouble, causing issues with a number of other members, HOG manager can just say you're out, hit the road to give you your dues back, and you're out. You don't have to be a member of this chapter, right? You're not entitled to be a member of a chapter. Typically, it's very easy to join a chapter, but all you do is hand over your dues. But you do not, there's nobody saying that you have the right to be here, right? It really depends on how you respond and how you react and how you get along with other people. If you're always a fly in the ointment, then there's going to be a lot of people that don't want you there, and they just may tell you to take a hike. So be on your best behavior, and you'll have no problems. The dealer can also start a new chapter. Maybe he killed the chapter, and 2 years later he's saying, all right, let's give this another shot. He can start that chapter back up again. Again, it's their discretion, along with the regional Harley-Davidson director there. So that's about it. A HOG manager has total control over the HOG chapter. That's the guy in charge. Usually it's the general manager. It could be the owner themselves. All the ones that I've met are really nice. They're fair people. They're busy people. They're managing a dealership, and in some cases a huge dealership. And they have a lot of responsibilities, and it's just one more thing that they have to worry about. So typically they'll let the chapter do its own thing until there's maybe some rough water or murky water, and then they have to step in and do their deal, unfortunately for them. Information useful. Again, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell notification icon, help the sucker out. We'll be back next week with the HOG Director.